Let's begin with a basic. If you can figure out who done it, will punish everyone.
It's Kyoko.
But Kyoko's standing right there.
No, that's a ghost.
But she has.
Well, that's just seems like the latest evolution in ghost tech.
There's a limit to how.
Then let's compare Kyoko's traits to the I got it! I'm talking about her gloves. They'll give us some.
In that case, I think it would be.
And would you happen to know the answer?
In fact, Monokuma told me.
Oh! You know, now that
They probably just got burnt up in the. I'm not convinced. The ghost. That Kyoko there is just a ghost.
Impossible.
Okay, then prove it. Prove she's not a ghost.
Gloves!
They got burnt up in the explosion.
Then she was wearing gloves before the explosion?
Well, yeah, she must have been wearing gloves. Because that corpse is absolutely Kyoko.
This entire discussion is idiotic.
That Kyoko.
Impossible.
Okay, then prove it.
The dead body.
They got burnt up in the
Then she was wearing.
Well,
Yeah!
no, it's wrong. No, there's whoever it was, they were wearing fake nails, remember? I imagine trying to wear gloves over nails like that would have been a... Besides, Kyoko wears gloves to hide her hands, right? It'd be pretty weird for someone who's self-conscious about their hands to wear fake nails, don't you think?
Jeez, man, you don't know women, huh? They're
Anyone, if I wore fake nails, the gloves wouldn't fit.
Then that's that. The dead body doesn't belong to Kyoko.
Which should have been obvious since she's standing right here. That's the first thing I said. You're the one who's been dragging us around in circles.
If Kyoko really is still alive, then who died?
There's gotta be some way to figure it out. I don't think so. The face was scorched beyond recognition. And there wasn't any description in the Monokuma file. Well, if we can't identify the body...
Then there's nothing else we can do, right? Kyoko really is still alive, then who died?
There's gotta be some way to figure it out. I don't think so. The face was scorched beyond recognition.
Shit! If Kyoko really is still alive, then who died?
There's gotta be some way to figure it out. I don't think so. The face was scorched beyond recognition.
Shoot!
If Kyoko really is still alive,
Then who died?
There's gotta be. I don't think so. The face was scorched beyond recognition.
Shoot!
if Kyoko really is still alive,
Then who died?
There's gotta be some. I don't think so. And there wasn't any well, if we can't identify.
then there's nothing else we can do, right? If Kyoko really is still alive,
Then who died?
There's gotta be some. I don't think so. And there wasn't any well, if we can't identify.
No, that's wrong. There was one clue left behind that we can use to identify the body.
What? For real? If you're lying, he'll die a cruel and unusual death.
cruel and unusual death. This I gotta see.
She's just being stupid. Ignore them, Makoto. Tell us what you're talking about.
The key to figuring out who it was is
Oh, yeah. Her master must have made her get it. To be like, you're my bitch.
Seriously?
Oh, really?
the Fenrir Mercenary Corps. That's the name of the military group Mukuro Ikusaba belonged to.
Okay, so...
To show that they're a member of the team, each soldier that joined would...
Now I understand. The representation.
He's the child of the wolf tattoo.
Exactly. The body we found had a tattoo of a wolf, which means that person Fenrir.
What?
Are you saying the mastermind is dead? And now we have to have a cool last trial?
No. After all, looking at her profile, I didn't see anything that would fit such a description. Oh. If I remember correctly, that other information came from... Kyoko. That's what you told Makoto, right?
So that means Kyoko got it wrong?
Who was she? Who was Mukuro Ikusaba? She's been gone this whole time? And when she finally turns up, she gets killed. Usually when there's a scene where an important character dies, it has a lot more detail.
So you're saying she wasn't an important character? Which would mean she was the same as us. Another participant.
Then who's the real mastermind?
It must have been the Hope's Peak Academy headmaster after all.
No, the headmaster has nothing to do with it.
But how can we trust that? We already know your information about Mukuro was wrong.
My information was not wrong.
Oh, please limit all future prattle, chatter, and chit-chat as much.
No matter what.
I have officially decided to completely ignore all such
Seriously?
Get a hold of yourself. We've already narrowed down the list of possible suspects.
I got it! You've narrowed it down to Kyoko and me, right?
Why do you say that?
Allow me to explain. Just after nighttime last night, I went to the garden, so I can confirm that at that point, there was no... So, the murder must have taken place after I left the garden. However, that's right. The four of us were there trying to do all of which is to say...
Are me and Makoto.
I have something I'd like to say regarding...
Are you thinking of raising an objection?
Well, before that, I just want to try and get a better idea. Doing that might reveal some...
Whatever you want. Somebody go ahead and help him out.
Me and Byakuya can both confirm that so the murder must have happened after 10 p.m.
Then I guess we can say the time frame for the murder was between then...
The one who saw the body first was Toko, right? And she went to go get the pickaxe.
I refuse to give up yet! The represent...
Are you saying the master...
After all, look up. If I remember correctly...
You...
Then...
No, but...
Please limit all future... Now then, just so to hammer that point
Then... One of...
Wait,
Nope.
I got it!
That's right. The four of us were there trying to dismantle Monokuma. The whole...
So the one who's...
I got it! The...
He's right. It had to be around...
For me, but I'm sure I met up with everyone else before 9 this morning.
We ran into each other in the dining hall, right? That was around... Oh yeah! Right around 7:30. I remember checking right before I went in, so I'm totally sure about it.
Which means from 10 p.m. to 7:30 a.m., you don't have an alibi.
We've established a time frame for the murder. It took place somewhere between 10 o'clock at night and 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yep, and Makoto doesn't have an alibi for most of that time.
Yeah, from 10 o'clock to 7:30.
That's more than enough time to commit murder, I should. Makoto, if you have any objections, now would be the time. We've established a time frame for the murder. It took place somewhere between 10 o'clock at night and 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yep, and Makoto doesn't have an alibi for most...
Yeah, from to 7:30.
That's more than enough time. So Makoto, if you have any objections, now would... We've established a time. It took place
somewhere between 10 o'clock at night and 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yep.
Yeah, from the 7.
That's more than enough time. So Makoto, if you have any objections, now would... We've established a time frame. It took place
somewhere between 10 o'clock at night...
Shoot!
We've established a time frame for the murder. It took place somewhere between 10 o'clock at night...
and 9 o'clock. Yep.
Yeah, from the 7:30.
Shoot!
We've established a time frame for the murder. It took place somewhere between 10 o'clock at night...
and 9 o'clock. Yep.
Yeah, from the 7:30.
That's more than enough time to commit murder. So Makoto, if you have any objections,
Now would be the time.
we've established
A time frame that it took place somewhere between 9 o'clock. Yep.
Yeah, from the 7:30.
Shoot!
We've established a time frame for the murder. It took place somewhere between...
No, that's wrong! Actually, the sprinklers are so if the body had been in this...
Oh, hold on! I remember this part perfect. The body was...
Sorry, Toko.
I'm wrong? Are you saying only the mouth down south was wet? How dare you!
No, I'm saying that the...
What do you mean by denying the sprinkler?
Man,
If you really think it was... You'd better... I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! You don't know anything! Enough! Hold on! Are you trying to blame me? I'm right about this! I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! You don't know anything! Enough! Hold on! Are you trying to blame me?
I refuse to give up yet!
I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! You don't know anything! Enough! Hold on! Are you trying to blame me? I'm right about this! I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! You don't know anything! Enough! Hold on! Are you trying to blame me? I'm right about this! I admit nothing. Hold on! I'm right about this! I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! You don't know anything! Enough! Hold on! Are you trying to blame me? I'm right about this! I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! You don't know anything! That's enough!
refuse to give up yet!
I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! I don't know anything! That's enough! Hold on! Are you trying to blame me? I'm right about this! I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! I don't know anything! That's enough! Hold on! Are you trying to blame me? I'm right about this! I admit nothing. Hold on! I'm right about this! I admit nothing. I hate you! No, no, no! I don't know anything! That's enough! Hold on! Are you trying to blame me? I'm right about this! I admit... Nothing. I hate you. No, no, no!
I refuse to give up yet!
I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! I don't know anything. That's enough. Hold on. Are you trying to blame me? I'm right about this. I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! I don't know anything. That's enough. Hold on. Are you trying to blame me? I'm right about this! I admit nothing. Hold on! I'm right about this! I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! I don't know anything! That's enough! Hold on! Are you trying to blame me? I'm right about this! I admit nothing. I hate you. No, no, no! How can you...
This should prove it! Just remember what the body was like after the explosion, and you'll see why it wasn't the sprinkler. The top half of the body was wet, yes. If the sprinklers got the body wet, shouldn't the whole body have been wet? While the body was still on fire, I doused it with water. But only the part on fire, the top half.
Oh, then I guess...
So if the sprinklers didn't get the body wet, then the murder must have taken place sometime after the sprinklers turned on at 7:30 in the morning.
Which means she must have been
But Makoto...
In which... So are you saying...
Oh, this is a trap.
Where this...
Shut up, you! Anyway, Kyoko, she thought Mukuro was the ultimate... But...
Because you see, there is...
Interesting.
All it would take is covering the body with a certain something to keep...
I got it! You're talking about the tarp.
You catch on. In fact, that's only one side of the tarp got dirty, because that's the side that got covered in water. The side that faced down over the body, meanwhile, this proves that the killer used the tarp to keep the...
But why would they go to all that effort?
Most likely so they could cloud the issue of when the murder actually... By covering the body with the tarp, the killer prevented it from getting wet.
So the reason the tarp was only dirty on one side is because the sprinkler got that side wet.
But the underside of it was totally spotless, right?
It's because that side was protected from the water.
Since it was faced, of course it didn't get dirty!
By covering the body with the tarp, the killer prevented it from getting wet.
So the reason the tarp was only dirty on one is because the sprinkler...
But the underside, it was totally...
It's because that side was... Since it was facing down toward the body, of course it didn't get dirty!
By covering the body with it, the killer prevents...
So the reason the tarp was only dirty on one is because the sprinkler got...
But the underside, it was totally...
It's because that side, since it was facing down, of course it didn't get dirty!
By covering the body with the tarp,
The killer prevents...
So the reason the tarp was only... Because the sprinkler got that side...
But the underside of it was totally spotless.
It's because that side was protected from the water. Since it was facing down, of course it didn't get dirty! Shoot!
By covering the body...
the killer prevented it from getting wet.
So the reason the tarp was only dirty is because the sprinkler...
But the underside, it was totally...
It's because that side, since it was facing... Of course it didn't get dirty!
By covering the body, the killer prevents...
So the reason that is because the sprinkler...
But the underside of the tarp, it was totally spotless.
It's because that side was protected from... Since it was facing... Of course it didn't get dirty! Shoot!
By covering the body with the tarp, the killer prevented it from getting...
So the reason that is because the sprinkler...
But the underside of it was totally spotless.
It's because that side was... Since it was facing down, of course it didn't get dirty!
No, that's wrong. Actually, one side being clean is pretty strange if you think about it. Because the blood wasn't dry before the body got blown up, right? Byakuya said it himself. Not to touch it, or you might get some on you. If you put a tarp on a body in that state...
Well, maybe the culprit washed it.
More than... They then covered the body in blood that didn't belong to the victim.
You mean someone else's blood? Where would they get something like that?
I know! They could have grabbed some of the blood packs from the nurse's office! That's what Hifumi did, right? When he pretended to be dead?
No, that's not what happened. The killer got the blood from right there in the garden.
Could have been... When I checked the chick... But after...
So, you're saying...
Killing a living thing just to do something like that?
Anyway, there's no denying that a chicken went missing.
But that's not what we saw. Only the victim.
I have to agree.
They covered it with... Wait, no. The head was through the neck hole, but the arms weren't in the sleeves.
Then that settles it.
Sorry, I'm having a tough time keeping up. What settles what?
Here's what happened. The murder took place before the sprinklers went off. But the body didn't get wet because the killer covered it with the tarp. Then, later, at the same time the killer was gathering up the tarp, they pulled the coat over the body, the coat they'd already covered in blood. This series of cover-ups was meant to disguise they wanted—
If that's...
But to pull all that off, wouldn't they have had to go back to the garden after the sprinklers turned off?
That actually wouldn't have been all that difficult.
Huh?
They already had the coat ready, so they just had to grab the tarp and pull the coat over the body. They'd be done in no time.
Maybe, but still.
Hina, after you met up with Makoto in the dining hall, did you two stay together from that point on?
Oh no, I headed off to the gym, and Makoto didn't show up till later.
Then he had plenty of time to spare, wouldn't you say?
That's not...
Don't bother saying it's not possible.
I must admit, Kyoko's reasoning is sound. Makoto's alibi is inadequate. Well then, it looks like Makoto's alibi is no good, so once again, our...
Hey! Why don't we let luck decide? Let's flip a coin. 50-50 odds.
Oh!
See? Pretty good idea, right?
No, not that.
Well,
You know that knife we found all black and burnt?
The one we found stuck in the body before it exploded, right? According to the Monokuma file, the knife went all the way through, from front to back. So, what about it?
I'm pretty sure I've seen that knife somewhere before. That's what I thought when I first saw it. I just remembered.
It's the knife we gave to Makoto?
you don't seem surprised. You must have noticed earlier.
Yeah.
Then why did you hide?
It's not that I hid it. It's just...
Suspicious! Very suspicious. The knife we found stuck in the box. Now I'm totally convinced he did it!
The knife we found lodged in the dead body.
It's the same one we gave to Makoto.
It really is, isn't it?
If he did have that, that seals it! Just because I had that automatically...
Well, getting stabbed is what killed, so there's no question.
You took that knife...
What a horrible man you are, Makoto. The knife we found lodged...
It's the same one we gave.
It really is, isn't it?
If he did have that, that seals it! Just because I had that automatic... Well...
Getting stabbed.
No, that's wrong! Wait, hold on. That should be clear from the description of the cover-up we just heard.
Lies! We never...
No, don't you... The killer covered the dead body with the tarp. And in other words, the victim never wore that blood-stained coat.
Okay, fine.
So... The knife had been thrust through the coat, along with the body. Meaning, if she wasn't stabbed until... Obviously, the stab wound isn't what killed her.
Maybe you stabbed her twice. Once to kill her...
The Monokuma file clearly states that there was only one stab wound.
Oh yeah, it sure did. I totally forgot about that.
Then the knife...
Was just another piece of camouflage set up by the true killer. They probably stabbed her to draw attention away from what actually killed her. Exploding the body afterward was probably meant to do the same thing. The explosion severely damaged the body, making it impossible to know what really killed her. It was all the killer's attempt to destroy all evidence of their crime.
So they wanted us to notice the stab wound and then detonated the body afterward. They meant for us to latch onto the knife as the cause of death, then destroy any evidence proving otherwise.
Oh, hey, I have a question. It kind of goes back to the beginning, but... what's the deal with that explosion anyway? Why'd the body just blow up all of a sudden like that?
If you bothered to put that lump of gray matter between your ears to use, you'd know the answer.
Well, if you're so smart, just tell me.
I'll tell you. I bet some unknown quantum particle caused an atomic-level spontaneous combustion!
I might be dumb, but even I'm not dumb enough to...
Go ahead, Makoto. Tell her or...
I got it! After the explosion, we found a tiny fragment of something on the ground near the body, right? That fragment reveals the cause of the explosion.
Huh? You know, I feel like I've seen something like it somewhere before.
That's only natural, because of course, we saw the same thing when we dismantled Monokuma. It's part of a bomb.
Oh!
Anyway, the culprit's they wanted the knife wound to look like the fatal injury, and the only one who had been is the only other...
Hold on a second.
What's the problem? Then shall we continue that the victim's fatal injury has yet to be...
The explosion didn't kill her for sure.
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't even then.
Oh yeah! That's gotta be it!
And more than that,
The victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire... Then shall we continue? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined, correct?
Shoot!
Then shall we continue? The victim's fatal injury has yet...
The explosion didn't kill her for sure.
Well, yeah. She was already totally dead.
And it wasn't because of the knife, right? And then there's only one other...
Oh yeah. That's gotta be it. There was evidence that showed she was hit on the back of...
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body.
then shall we continue? The victim's fatal...
The explosion didn't kill...
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't because of you then.
Oh yeah. According to them, that's gotta be it. There was evidence that showed she was hit on the back of her head.
Shoot! I refuse to give up yet!
Then shall we continue? The victim's fatal.
The explosion didn't kill.
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't me who did it.
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it. There was
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body.
Shoot!
Then shall we continue? The victim's fatal.
The explosion didn't kill her.
Well, yeah. She was already...
And it wasn't me because of the... There's only one of it.
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it.
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her Then shall we continue? The victim's fatal.
The explosion didn't kill her for sure.
Well, yeah. She was already...
And it wasn't me because of the knife, right?
Shoot!
Then shall we continue the debate?
The victim's fatal.
The explosion didn't kill her for sure. Yes.
Shoot!
Then shall we continue? The victim's fatal.
The explosion didn't kill her.
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't me who did it.
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it. There was evidence.
And more than that,
The victim had suffered
countless wounds across her entire body.
Then shall we continue
The debate.
The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined, correct?
The explosion didn't kill her for sure. Yes.
Well, yeah. She was already totally dead.
And it wasn't me because of the knife, right? There's a...
Oh, yeah. According to the monitor, that's gotta be it. There was evidence that showed she was hit on the back of her head. Shoot!
Then shall we continue? The victim's fatal.
The explosion didn't kill...
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't me who did it.
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it.
And more than that,
The victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body.
Shoot!
I refuse to give up yet!
Then shall we continue the
debate.
The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined.
The explosion didn't kill her for sure. Yes.
Shoot!
Then shall we continue? The victim's fatal.
The explosion didn't kill...
Well, yeah. She was already...
And it wasn't me because of the...
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it.
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her Then shall we continue? The victim's fatal.
The explosion didn't kill...
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't me because of the knife.
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it.
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her Then shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined, correct?
Shoot!
Then shall we continue? The
Victim's fatal injury has
Yet to be determined, correct?
The explosion didn't kill her for sure.
Well, yeah. She was already
And it wasn't me because of the knife, right?
Shoot!
Then shall we continue?
The victim's fatal injury has yet to be
The
determined.
explosion didn't kill her.
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't me who did it. There's...
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it. There was evidence that showed she was hit on the back of her head. Shoot!
Then shall we continue?
The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined.
The explosion didn't kill...
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't me who did it. There's a...
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it.
And more than that,
The victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body.
Shoot!
I refuse to give up yet!
Then shall we continue? The victim's fatal...
Explosion didn't kill her.
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't even going.
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it. There was evidence that showed she was hit on the back.
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her entire body. Then, shall we continue the debate? The victim's fatal injury has yet to be determined, correct?
The explosion didn't kill her for sure.
Well, yeah.
And it wasn't even going.
Oh, yeah. That's gotta be it.
And more than that, the victim had suffered countless wounds across her Then shall we continue the victim's fatal injury?
No, it's wrong. Mukuro died because of the blow to the back of the head she suffered.
What about the wounds all over the rest of her body? They didn't have anything to do with it?
The Monokuma file makes it clear that those weren't fresh wounds.
Oh yeah, good point. If they were old, I guess they don't really matter.
Okay, then we're safe in assuming the blow to the back of her head is what killed her.
But then, what was the murder weapon? The Monokuma file says... How is that even possible? If you hit someone with that...
Well?
No way! I wouldn't mind...
No thanks.
I'd love to...
I feel the same way!
Seriously?
We want to figure out what killed her, right? It just so happens we already know.
We already know? I knew we could count on you, Master!
So what was it?
Go ahead and tell them, Makoto.
I got it! Mukuro was hit in the back of the head. And that something was the titanium arrow we found in the locker in the dojo.
Arrow? That's what the culprit attacked Mukuro with?
Indeed. There's no doubt about it.
Are you sure? That sounds kinda weird. Hey! How dare you! I'm not back-talking anything!
The Titanium Era. It was in the dojo locker, right? I have no doubt that was...
Are you sure?
You don't sound...
Well, it said the weapon must... It seems like an arrow would just be too quick. Back to me. You have no right!
The Titanium Era. It was in the dojo. I have no doubt.
Are you sure?
You don't sound...
Well, it said the weapon must have been about it. It seems like an arrow would just be too thin.
Back to Master!
You have no right!
The Titanium, it was in the dojo. I have no doubt.
Are you sure?
You don't sound...
Well, it said the weapon must have been about as thick as a metal pipe. It seems like an arrow would just be too thick.
No, that's wrong. You're right. Just the one... Inside the dojo locker, we also found... The killer probably uses bundling them together using the duct tape would easily create a single weapon as thick as... And that's exactly what the killer did.
If one stick is weak, they put them together, and they...
Damn, that's harsh.
How is it harsh?
As for who the culprit is that stashed the weapon in the dojo locker, it was you, Kyoko.
I've never been to the dojo.
Oh no.
How can you say that?
Because... the death of us all, remember?
Of course I... I got it! The one thing that proves Kyoko was in the dojo is... right here. The key to the dojo locker.
And how does that prove anything?
You're not. This all proves that you are the true culprit. You can't explain this away, so just give up.
Hold on a second.
Not this again. You really are dead set on defending her, aren't you?
No, it's not that I want to defend her. It's just... there's one more thing I need to ask her. Kyoko, I want you to tell me something. Last night, you were in my room, weren't you? Why? That's what I need to know.
I was just... protecting you.
What?
That's enough. The time for...
I'm warning you. Don't make... Really?
Those words you just spoke. What do you mean?
Exactly what I said. I'm not the killer. You should understand that more than anyone here.
Byakuya, what are you hiding?
Master would never hide something from me!
There's proof that you aren't the culprit. Is that what you're saying?
You stated a theory earlier. You said I hid the evidence of my crime in the dojo locker, and then left the locker key in my own room, correct? But could I really have done that?
Those words you just spoke. What do you mean?
Exactly what I said. I'm not the killer. You should understand that more than anyone here.
Byakuya, what are you hiding?
Master would never hide something from me!
There's proof that you aren't the culprit. Is that what you're saying?
You said I hid and then left the locker key in my... But could I really have done that?
Those words you just spoke.
Exactly, I'm not the killer. You should understand that more than...
Byakuya,
Master would never...
there's proof that you aren't the culprit. Is that what you're saying?
You said I hid and then left the locker key in my own room, correct?
Shoot!
Those words you just spoke. What do you mean?
Exactly what I said. I'm not the killer. You should understand that more than anyone here.
Byakuya, what are you hiding?
Master would never hide something from me!
There's proof that you aren't the culprit. Is that what you're saying?
You stated a theory earlier. You said I hid the evidence of my crime in the dojo locker, and then left the locker key in my own room, correct? But could I really have done that?
Those words you just spoke. What do you mean?
Exactly what I said. I'm not the killer.
Shoot!
Those words you just spoke. What do you mean?
Exactly, I'm not the... You should understand...
Byakuya,
Master would never...
there's proof that you aren't the... Is that what you're...
You stated a theory. You said I hid and then left the But could I really have done that?
Those words you just spoke. What do you mean?
Exactly what I said. I'm not the killer.
You should understand...
Byakuya,
Master would never...
there's proof that you... Is that what you're...
You stated a... You said I hid and then left the But could I really have done that?
Those words you just spoke. What do you mean?
Exactly what I said. I'm not the killer. You should understand that more than anyone here.
Byakuya, what are you hiding?
Master would never hide something from me!
There's proof that you aren't the culprit. Is that what you're saying?
You stated a theory earlier. You said I hid the evidence of my crime in the dojo locker, and then left the locker key in my own room, correct? But could I really have done that?
those words you just...
Exactly, I'm not, but you should understand.
Byakuya,
Master would never...
there's proof that you... Is that what you're...
You stated it. You said I hid
And then left the locker key in my own room, correct? But could I really have done that?
Those words you just...
Exactly, I'm not, but you should understand.
Byakuya,
Master would never...
there's proof that you... Is that what you're...
You stated it. You said I hid and then left the But could I really have done that?
Those words you just spoke.
Exactly, I'm not, but you should understand.
Byakuya,
Master would never...
there's proof that you aren't...
No, it's wrong. If I'm right, Kyoko...
Why not?
Because she had given her room key to Byakuya.
I see. So that's what you meant. And if I had the key to your room...
Then obviously I had no way of getting in. Without my room key, I couldn't have possibly put the locker key in there myself. Am I wrong?
It would appear not.
Then you're finally starting to understand.
Well, does no one... Have you decided to accept her... I see. So I suppose we have to admit that Kyoko didn't...
You!
But I couldn't pop...
What do you... Now, who will...
Sorry.
Yes, indeed. Yep. Hey! Shing! Thrills! Chills!
I don't expect you to forget.
Let's give it everything we...
It would seem...
What the heck?
In other words, just a second. It smells... Hey. So... you... Indeed. However... However... Hey. So... Correct. So... In other words... Indeed. So... However... Indeed. Correct. That's right. In other words... Indeed. Anyway... Correct. However... Correct. Indeed. Correct. Indeed.